Well, let's bring in Andrew Rasiulis, a retired official of the Department of National Defense. Andrew, thanks for being here.
Good afternoon, Matt.
You know what? We've had some developments here in the last hour or so. The leaders, after that meeting with the coalition of the willing, signing a declaration of intent to have this security force. It sounds like with a number of troops that could be on the ground in Ukraine if and when a peace deal is reached, and that it clearly is going to be the key in all of this. Were you surprised at all for what you heard from the leaders?
Actually, it's a works in progress. You have to read between the lines here. They're not talking about combat capability. It sometimes sounds like it, but it's not.
Okay.
They're talking about training, logistic support, that kind of thing, which is very different from NATO's Article 5, which says basically if a NATO member is attacked, the others will somehow use military force according to their capabilities to defend that country. This is not the case. I find in the statements by the leaders and also the communique that was just put out, it's a very sort of works in progress kind of thing. No really firm commitments, talking about sensors, monitoring an eventual ceasefire line, American involvement particularly in that, but not much American involvement in other things. So again, it's very much European-led and not so much American. Americans are the backstop here. So and they haven't concluded any final documents. There's a number of final documents that are still going to be worked on. So this is very much a works in progress.
Yeah, okay, interesting, and appreciate, too, some of that insight from you on how this is actually going to work. So it is a work in progress. However, I think when you look at, that if France and the UK are going to send up, they were talking about military hubs, at least at some points, in order to help support the Ukrainian troops. But there is going to be that balance still, right, between when and if we get to this point and when this war finally does come to an end, about supporting Ukrainian troops and keeping some of these security guarantees in place, but also trying to avoid any escalation with Russian troops as well.
Yes. I mean, the point is that this all comes into being on the eventuality of a peace deal with Russia. So Russia will have to agree to the terms. And everything that we're hearing now from the Russians is they will never agree to any kind of Western boots on the ground, even in a logistics or training capacity. So any kind of Western troop involvement would have to be outside of Ukraine, in Poland, in Romania, places like that, but not actually in Ukraine. Otherwise, this is a deal breaker from a Russian point of view.
And so, and I get that in particular, too, it feels like that European leaders, Canada as well, and this coalition is trying to ramp up some of this pressure on Russia. But ultimately, it is going to be the U.S. and some of the sanctions, or whatever the case may be, about getting Vladimir Putin to the table to try and get some sort of ceasefire or peace deal.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is try to pressure the Russians through economic means, not military means, economic means, to come to the table and back off their maximalist goals. Right now, the Russians have avoided economic pressure. They have done sanctions avoidance, and they keep driving forward. We'll have to wait and see. But the Americans don't seem to have a big appetite for getting into sanctions on Russia right now. Their attention is elsewhere. So again, it's the Europeans that are putting this pressure on. And again, I think that there may be a limited effect there.
Okay. Andrew Rasiulis, retired official with the Department of National Defense. Appreciate your time today, Andrew. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Matt.